And we are live.
Hello.
Welcome back. Welcome back. It has been a couple of weeks. Pesach break, Passover break.
Yeah. Has it been a couple weeks? Yeah, it's been a couple weeks.
It's been a couple of weeks, yeah. Well, Passover's 9 days.
Time flies when
Pesach's-
you're eating like unleavened bread.
It really does. I really felt like this year, I feel like I always say this, but I feel like it really felt like it flew by. I was also in different places. Usually we're by my in-laws for the whole thing. This year was the first time I got to spend it with some family in a long time, so that was nice.
Your in-laws are still your family, I guess.
No, of course. I mean, my immediate family.
Right.
Meaning we usually spend all the holidays there for the last 5 years or so.
Yeah, and of course I missed out on that this year because until you got married and started going to your in-laws, a lot of the family always comes to Israel, and we've been doing it even before I moved here. And then Corona happens, obviously, and all this stuff. And then this year, because our eldest sister is expecting a baby any day now, God willing. And maybe when this episode goes out, she'll already have a baby. So, whoo. And basically, hold on, sorry, I just got to remind you. And so basically our parents were going in, because she's having a baby and all that stuff, but our niece Shira is having a bat mitzvah next month, God willing. So it couldn't take off from work on Pesach and for the bat mitzvah. So I had to choose one. Right. So I had to stay behind this year. And of course it's the year that you are with your kids and you go with the rest of our family. And I'm very devastated, but I'm coming in a month. So I'm very excited about that. And maybe we could even do a live, all Brucked.
That'd be a great idea. Right. Yeah. I think also the fact that a lot of people who are going to go away, obviously it's become a trend over the last 15 years, more and more for people to go to on Pesach programs and go away or go to your parents. But over COVID, a lot of people were forced to stay home and figure it out on their own. And so I think they realize it's not as bad or daunting of a task to clean your house as it seems. And so therefore a lot of people decided that they'd make Passover Pesach at home and, have a nice time at home.
Yeah. So I got that, but it's a really daunting task. How much of the Pesach cleaning did you do in your house and did your wife do?
We didn't need to do it because we were gone the entire time.
Well, that's why
I just need to sell it and get out.
It's really not even as bad. I don't know why people complain that it's not bad, you guys.
I'm not one of those people that I'm not one of those people that learned how easy it is to do. We were living by my in-laws throughout COVID.
But for the rest of you bitches, stop complaining because it's really not that bad.
It really isn't that bad.
But it's so funny because I remember growing up, it's with the whole in the religious world and stuff. I don't know if non-religious people do it all, but you're supposed to sell your chametz, where your food that's not kosher for Passover, you're supposed to sell it to someone who's not Jewish. This way, it's not your property and all that. So that in itself is its own thing, but you sold your chametz to a non-Jew. But I remember one year, I was in my room and I found a bag of potato chips or pretzels in my closet, and I freaked out because I was oh my god, it's in my closet. And then also I was well, I can't go downstairs and throw it in the garbage because mom's gonna kill me. So I didn't know what to do, so I had to go in the alley and throw in the garbage. Mind you, it's we had to tape up all our cabinets that held all the stuff and everything like that, and it's but if it's sold and it's not ours, then they're why are we also freaking out about all that? I know people who would literally soak and scrub their children's toys, and it's
right.
Do you have to go? It's good. For germ wise, I'm sure that's great, but I feel it's becoming a different extent. I remember when we were younger, it was a lot of rabbis were oh, you can't wear certain perfumes, you can't use certain
makeups, makeups,
and then that changed. The whole thing started off with the Jews fleeing Egypt. So I was saying, I think I was talking to you about this a couple weeks ago. It's when they were leaving, the way we make matzah, for people who don't know, it's you only have 18 minutes to make it. It's super strict. You have to roll holes in the matzah. There can't be it has to be completely air holes. So it's not going to rise at all. It has to be very, very specific, very, very intense. That it's a whole thing basically. When they were escaping Egypt, with the whole story and everything like that, it's I don't think that they were rolling in holes in the matzah and quickly 18 minutes. Oh shit! I'm pretty sure they were walking out of Egypt, skipping abroad, being chased by the Egyptians with lavas.
Skipping abroad, being chased by the Egyptians.
It reminds me of Wizard of Oz, just skipping down the yellow brick road, but it was kind of sandy and you were being chased by murderous killers and stuff. But Yeah, I'm pretty sure they had lafas. Trying to figure out how like somehow we got screwed over. And like,
For those who don't know, a laffa is a nice, soft, fluffy, sort of like a pita bread, but bigger, almost like a soft unbaked focaccia that's just warm.
soft unbaked focaccia.
You know, because I feel like when you like focaccia, usually like
I know exactly
crispy.
what you mean, but just a funny way of like.
I just mean like a soft, doughy, thin. It's interesting. First of all,
it's like a tortilla kind of.
Just a side note: the Ramban or Nachmanides, as he's known among scholars, he actually writes that the original commandment before we left was to make matzahs. They didn't have enough time to make the matzahs and didn't make them until they had already left. There's an interesting side note.
So then why can't we just eat what they had? They couldn't make the real ones. So it's like,
it's interesting. This year, it was we went to visit my wife's aunt and uncle. And her uncle he's Sephardi, he's Persian. He's from Iran. And this year, after speaking with his rabbi, they started eating the laffa matzos, like the box. First of all, they're insanely expensive. It was like $50 for like a pound, and they're super dense, so you don't get a lot either.
Well, apparently some big like matzah factory burned down this year, and Dad was telling me in the 5 towns it was like $50-$60 for a pound of matzah for shmor matzah, handmade. Yeah, because apparently this like big factory like burned down, like so it was like a whole devastation of some kind.
That's really crazy. I think also in terms of all the various details and things that have added onto the year, this kind of falls into my general thought process or viewpoint, I guess. On I don't know. I can only speak for Orthodox Judaism because I grow up, live it, and experience it. But it makes sense. It makes sense from more of like a psychological standpoint. I feel like the further we get from the source, meaning the further we get from the original generations of Jews, you know, whatever that may be or whoever that's considered to be, the more assimilated or spread out throughout the rest of the world we are. I feel like over time we've just become more closed off. And set up more and more barriers to sort of maintain our faith, because a lot of times we've been chased out of different countries, or we've been whatever it is, or persecuted for our beliefs. So it's gotten really, really intense. And that's why I was having a discussion with a friend of mine on Purim time about how he was saying how he feels that this generation, it's a lot of generations, but this generation specifically being only a few generations after the Holocaust is a generation of healing, of trying to work on trauma and get better. That's why there's so much more of an openness now, less of a stigma still, but less so of, you know, seeing therapists and working on mental health and dealing with, you know, serious issues. But throughout so much time, I feel like we've gone through so much, and you kind of just buckle down and keep going. But things get added on, I feel like, almost as a preventative measure to sort of try to maintain their faith among, you know, God knows what's going on around them. And over time, it kind of turns into something which can seem a little bit extreme. But I don't think it's coming from a bad place. I think it's coming from just trying to, you know, scared of potentially, you know, losing something. If that makes any sense. Yeah. I don't know. That's what I think.
Oh, no, that totally makes sense. Like, I definitely want to get into that. It happens to be, we are recording on Yom Shoah, the Holocaust Remembrance Day. I was actually at work today. We had a Holocaust survivor who spoke, and when they announced that we were going to have one and everything, I was like, oh my God, because, you know, we're in 2023 now. Who's ever, like, the survivors that are left are very, very few.
Right.
And it's scary to think because, you know, for the next generations and, like, you know, even for, like, you know, your youngest kids and stuff, like when they're getting a little older, it's only going to be stories. It's going to be like, right. You know, history class. You're only going to hear about things. Like, you know, I heard I think Yad Vashem in Israel here. I think also maybe the one in Washington. They're like recording like Holocaust survivors and doing all these interviews and stuff, and having like holograms to kind of have them tell their stories to be able to do that. So, you know, that's something. But it's like, you know, when you see the people, when you meet them, when you see the number on their arm, it goes from something to be that you're so, you know, that was so far away in history to being like, oh my God, like this wasn't that long ago. These people are here. Like, right. It's like even the Titanic, everyone's so attached to that. That was way beforehand. A lot of people have grandparents who were living during, you know, the time of World War II. It's something that wasn't so long ago. And to your point, I think that, you know, that we were literally they tried to annihilate us as religion, as a people, whatever they classified us as. And because of that, I think a lot of these communities started. I think a lot of in the Hasidic communities, I think a lot of these towns that we were from in like Poland and all these places, they wore certain hats and they had a certain style. And I feel like that's what carried on to a lot of religious Jews wearing black hats, like all this stuff. It's tying in these old things. And I feel like we did kind of guard ourselves and put ourselves in this bubble,
right,
out of fear, because it's, I remember being a kid and like, listening to like stories and stuff. And I'd be like, but like, why didn't they just leave? Or like, didn't they see what was coming? Or like, but the truth is it wasn't like that. Like they were living well off. It was like the America of Europe. A lot. I remember one of them saying like, and I was like, really? Like they were doing well. Like, it's not like there was like all these red flags and it's like, they just like, stood the ground. Like they were like, it was crazy, and to think that even the Nazi party and everything got as big and everything as they were, and the fact that they spread as far and wide as they did, like, right. It says a lot, and it's really scary. And, it's like that famous line about history repeating itself. And here we are in 2023. And aside from just, the struggles that we deal with Jews, like, you still deal with racism, anti-Semitism, and all these things. And it's like, we can't even imagine what people went through in those times. Like I always think like the people who like survived, like stuck it out. Like I can't even imagine if, God forbid, I was ever in that kind of situation, because like, it's not like they knew like, the day was going to end. They didn't know if it was ever going to end. They didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel because they were just a fucking cave. Like the amount of strength that anyone who went through that must have had to even pull themselves through it. And a lot of them also lost like immediate family in the process, right, and stuff is incomprehensible. And I can't even fathom. I can't even fathom. And the people who come out like that and like are still religious and stuff and believe in God, it's like, it's next level.
Right. I remember I read the biography of the Kloisenberger Rebbe, who was one of the major figures in getting the school system started over here. But he lost 10 children and his wife, and then another child right after the war. And he's famously quoted as saying like my family, everything I've lost, but God, I did not lose. And like things like that, like they're not normal human beings. They're obviously, these are incredibly special people. Everyone, the ones who lost everything and their lives, and the ones who survived, they're all just like, I remember being on a plane when I was like 15 or 16, probably 15, maybe 16. Anyways,
must have been years ago.
My friend and I, Benji, were going on a summer program, and we had to meet the group in New York. So we flew from Chicago. We were flying from Chicago O'Hare to JFK to meet the group and then go to Rome. And we got on the plane, and the flight was delayed. And we sat on the plane for like 2 hours on the plane, which is the worst. And
right, I was going to say, you're like, I'm going to kill myself.
And then they deboarded the plane, which is the only time this has ever happened to me. They deboarded the plane. But when we got off the plane, I was talking to Benji. I was standing there. I'm not really sure my level of religiosity at the time, if that's a word, religiosity.
Yeah, and I think religiosity is.
But I was wearing tzitzis, see the little fringes at the side, and this old lady walked up to me. Must have been like 5'3", and she grabbed my arm and she said something along the lines of receiving blessings from strangers. I didn't fully understand what she said in the beginning, but the words I heard clearly was when she told me that she was a survivor. She was in Auschwitz, and then she rolled up her sleeve and showed me the numbers on her arm. And she told me that I reminded her of her grandson. Maybe I looked like him. I don't know. And then she gave me a blessing for whatever it was. And I was just like frozen and like, whoa. And I told Benji afterwards, we ended up getting on the plane with her. We went to New York. We were delayed, had to meet the group later in Rome. It was a whole thing. 5 weeks later, when we returned from New York to Chicago, she was on the same flight with us back, which is pretty wild. But I always told him, I feel like, he also got a blessing from her. I was like, that I feel like 100% we got delayed on that flight just so I can get off the plane and we can meet this lady who I would have never even known, but that lady right there could have gone through God knows what, the most horrific things we'd ever imagine. And she just seemed like another, elderly passenger on this plane. And if it weren't for her coming over to me and recognizing me or thought that I looked like her grandchild, I would have never. It was just crazy. But like you said, there's so few, they're very few and far between nowadays. When we were kids, we would have speakers come to school every once in a while, survivors. Dad was very close with Charlie Lifshitz. He was a very, very special individual. When I was a little kid, I must have been like 9 or 10 years old. Dad told him I was just interested in learning more, and he spent an entire day with me. On a Sunday, we went out to lunch together, and then we went out to the Holocaust Museum in Chicago, and he told me stories, and it was such a special thing. But it's scary to think my kids will probably not have that or won't be able to have an experience like that because, like you said, they're getting old, and it's scary once that connection is lost. Like you said, no matter how you try to maintain that memory or that history with holograms or whatever it is, and I'm sure it'll be great. You're never gonna to see it there.
It's not the same
for anyone who hasn't gone to the camps or to Germany or to Poland. Definitely.
I know. I still have to.
It definitely is worth going.
When I was in Bar Ilan for my year abroad, after high school, they had a march of the something or
March of the Living.
Okay, so I was gonna say March of the Dead, and I didn't think that was the right one. March of the Living. So, so the March of the Living, but I feel like at that time I was newly out of the closet. I was still trying to figure myself out. I feel like I was still trying to figure out myself with religion and where I fit in all that stuff. That I feel like it would have been really too difficult for me to go there at that point in my life.
Right.
But I feel like now I'm in a point where I would want to, but also everything going on in Europe and everything right now, I feel like it's also scary going, unless you're really incognito.
Right. I went when we were in my first year in Israel. My yeshiva did a trip. It was 8 days. We slept 4 hours a night. It was an intense trip. We did a lot. And our tour guide who's been doing this for years, he said he hasn't packed that much into a trip in a while. It took a toll, but it was hard for me in the beginning because, a lot of my friends and rabbis who were there, obviously they were very emotional at these places. But for me, in the beginning, I was do I need to cry? Or I don't really know what to feel. And then I get there, and
is there a manual on how to emote to this situation?
Right, but for me personally, there was such a disconnect between my world and what I've experienced and what I'm being told happened to these people that I literally
but that's
had
the thing
zero comprehension. I can't even.
That's the thing but that's the thing. No matter how hard you want to try to understand, no matter how many books you read, no matter how many people you speak to,
right,
you can never understand what it was like being in their shoes or the lack of shoes,
right?
Because it's if I was on a plane for 2 hours, I'd just be like, oh my god, just shoot me dead. Especially if we were deboarding, I'd be like, just kill me now. And it's that to me is the end all be all, but it's these people literally were shoved. I wouldn't have made it into the trains to get to wherever the hell I need to go. I'm claustrophobic as hell. I would have just been just shoot me. I'm done. I can't even fathom what they went through. I can't imagine mothers who had their children ripped away from them. I can't imagine the women whose heads were just shaved right away and they were literally just stripped naked and made to be completely embarrassed. It's just but that's why it's so crazy that there's so little of them left because the stories are just so how could you say an inappropriate word faggot for a gay guy or something like that or the N-word or something you'll be canceled, people will hate on you, but in those days they were literally murdering and maiming people. It's just unfathomable the fact that it took so long for the world to even get involved. Right. And I remember thinking where was the world? Where was the world? And I feel the first time I kind of saw it a little more clearly was when this war on Ukraine started from Russia. And it's here we are over a year later and where is the world?
Right.
Yeah, okay, America's sending them shit and billing them for it. Other countries, whatever. But why are we not intervening? Because we're worried about another war happening. But it's but this just so it's it's like, oh, okay, well, that's why.
Well, you have to. I think that's a tough decision. I feel like because you have to calculate it. You know, how many lives are you willing to risk losing to save a certain amount of people, or are you trying to think of another plan? I don't know. You know, it seems like.
And how many lives are you risked losing by not doing a damn
anything?
thing?
Right.
So it's like it's you know, I mean, that's why I would never want to be a commander in chief or anything to have to like worry about those kinds of decisions or anything.
I don't think
like
you have to worry about that.
I mean, they've asked me to you know, run before in the polls, and I'm like, I don't want to make everyone else look bad. But honestly, if someone like Trump could get in, if someone like, I don't know, any of these people could get in these days, I feel like I have a good chance of running. So honestly, I'm going to elect Britney Spears for president. Stronger than yesterday.
I remember my rabbi, Rebbe Lashak, telling me that his most intense experience, that he also had a very hard time connecting when he first went to the camps. But the one place that broke him down the most, probably for me as well, is Majdanek, because it's literally, you're driving in like a residential neighborhood. Imagine this, like driving down a couple of suburban streets, the forests cut away, there's a few blocks of houses, and then boom, in the middle of all these houses that were all there when this was going on. It wasn't like they were built after. All these houses were there. There's a massive concentration camp, gas chambers. I'm pretty sure it's at, this is at Majdanek. It's at one of the camps. They have a massive dome filled with like 7,000 tons of ash.
I just love that it was always called the concentration camps, because as a kid you think of camp like, oh, summer camp. It's like, it was not camp. Right. It was torture towns. Like, it was not normal.
Right.
I just can't, like, every single aspect about that. And then on top of that, you were starving and freezing, and had lack of water, freezing, hot. You finally get a shower, realize it's a gas chamber, and it's too late. It's like a Saw, the movie, but like worse,
right?
Literally. And then you had the doctor who was experimenting on patients, who literally was like the guy on Saw,
right?
Or worse. So it's like, you know, you want to see people
still survive, like the Kalav Rebbe of Yerushalayim, who passed away a few years ago.
Yeah, that's so sad.
He was one of the few rabbis of the big Hasidus that still survived after the war. He was in his 90s, and he was experimented on by Mengele. That's why he lost his hair. He didn't have a beard. He was one of the children who was experimented. I mean, it was just the worst. I mean, you can't, like you said, unimaginable. But the most important thing is to, you know, do what we can to instill these memories in our children's minds, and to let them know that this happened, that people can be this cruel, and that you know, to know that these atrocities happen to us.
Yeah, we can't let these kinds of things happen in the future.
Right.
It's like up to all of us to build. It sounds like a commercial, but it's up to all of us to build like a brighter future that
100%.
actually has hope to it, as you know, for us.
What I was thinking about on the way when I was driving back after I dropped my kids off at school today, I was driving back. I don't know. I think I was listening to a podcast, but I was thinking about this, and I feel like,
was it the All Brucked Up podcast?
It was not, unfortunately. I know, but I'm not going to be that guy that listens to his. I can't listen to myself talk. But I was thinking about how I feel like throughout history, and actually comedian Theo Von, who's absolutely hilarious.
You give so much publicity to these podcasters. I'm not, like, in every episode.
He's a comedian. He's a comedian. Hold on.
Hold on. One more shout out to HelloFresh. Okay, yeah, continue.
Okay, and in one of his more serious moments, he mentioned something that I also very much so resonate with, and I feel like makes a lot of sense, which is we've become so advanced, specifically over the last couple 100 years or 100 years, so advanced to the point that so many people, obviously not a lot, not a majority of the world, but so many people in America and Europe and Asia, other countries and continents, they have so much more time on their hands than people 100 years ago who had to work from morning until night because they wouldn't have light at night, or people who literally had to work to eat that day. You were busy the entire day. You were exhausted at night. You were constantly doing things. But now that we have more time on our hands, I know you're laughing. Life was way more complicated.
I'm telling you why I'm laughing, because as you're talking in my head, The Fifth Harmony song of "You Ain't Gotta Go to Work," is in my head.
Wonderful.
And I'm listening to how people are struggling, and all I'm thinking of is like these 5 stupid bitches, like, you ain't gotta go to work. It's like, well, I kind of gotta pay my bills, and my family's literally starving. But thank you. Like,
and I feel like with the more time we have on our hands, the more time there is for us to get kind of lost in our own thoughts, lost in our own heads, and then ponder some of the deeper questions of life because we have more time in our hands. And it's something that I found, like, at least, I mean, if you look at the Torah, obviously, and our writings, the earliest generations of conscious humans were having these sort of discussions, and then I feel like got lost in world.
Who are the unconscious humans?
No, I say conscious. I mean consciously aware of
like worldly.
Oh,
okay.
All right. Like I believe Rabbi Ari Kaplan. I think he counted the counting of creation from. I think he believed our counting of 5,783, which is the year we're at right now, is not from the creation of the world. It's from when the first man, we call Adam, became consciously aware of a singular God. But regardless, I believe that was Ari Kaplan's thought. That's not mine. That's what I was told. I don't know if it's true. I have to look it up.
Like, not to totally change the topic, but I guess like after you finish, because I just don't want to forget, because immediately, obviously, we spoke of this before, but like super Orthodox Jews and how they're like, dinosaurs aren't real.
Yeah.
Or how nothing can be like, more than 5,783 years old or something like that. And it's like, also when God created the world, it's like, right. No, but sorry, I just want to throw that out there so you can continue what you were saying. I just didn't want to forget that. So
yeah.
Unless I totally just made you.
No, 5783, beginning of the creation. Yeah, you totally threw me off my train of thought. But if you want to pop into that discussion, for me, I never really struggled with these things. I mean, I've always been fascinated by science, and I've always maintained a belief in God, even when I wasn't religious in high school for whatever period of time. I never didn't believe in God or felt, but I always pondered or thought about, some of the deeper questions. And I did think about that stuff a lot with like science and carbon dating. And when I was a kid, I was told carbon dating isn't accurate, but then it really is accurate up until like 50,000 years ago. And so like the questions come up again. I don't really know. I think there's literal meaning, and I think there's literal meaning and there's symbolic meaning, and often the two get confused. And I think that I don't know why dinosaurs. There are definitely a large group of Orthodox religious people, not only Jews but other people also, that don't believe that dinosaurs were real, or they believe that the world was created with their fossils already in the ground. The reason that they have that belief
is God throwing a fucking treasure hunt. Like,
no. So the reason they have that belief, I think, I don't know. Again, I'm not. It's not my viewpoint. Is because the rabbis write in the Talmud in Masechta Rosh Hashanah that everything was created in the world. When the world was created, it wasn't created as like a baby Earth, so to speak, that then had to begin growing. It was created as like an already in motion universe, an already existing, breathing universe with things within it having already been developed beyond their first stages. So like if you would have cut a tree down, you would have seen rings in the tree indicating its age, even though the world was just created. So I think that's where that idea of the bones having just been in the world came from. But to me, we live in a physical world, and God created a world that sort of operates by cause and effect, and it makes sense that he would create the world and then allow it to develop through those processes of cause and effect over, billions of years, or whatever. That makes more sense than
right. It's like, when they said like God created the world in 7 days, but like we don't know what he counted as time back then or something. It could have been like a hell of a long time, those 7 days.
What is that symbolic?
Right. And also, like, if he's freaking God, he didn't need days. He could have just,
Right. We also say in Tehillim and Psalms that there's a sentence, I think that's like 1,000 years is like a passing day in the eyes of God, which again is probably symbolic. It's not like it's supposed to be an exact calculation. So again, what is that? What does it mean? Again, we don't know. But one thing I will add is that we don't know. we don't know everything. We don't know
Well,
what everything
I
means.
know, and I do know everything.
And as
But
someone who,
one day by you.
I was always fascinated by like science and astronomy and archaeology. But we also, the more we learn, the more we realize that what we don't know and how much we don't know, and we realize that we were wrong about things we thought we were totally right about. And while yes, we discover things
It's
along the way,
always
that
evolving,
right? And yes, there are certain fundamental truths that we've come to accept in science, but at the same time, things still do evolve. I mean, never
like
really
science
will
books
know.
from 10 years ago are for sure have outdated information. It's like that, maybe even from 5 years ago, because it's always ever evolving. But I do think there are a lot of scientific things that also do align with religion and the way we like see things and the way things were created. So I think that there, it's, you know, even with science, like you can't say it's an exact science because science,
Right.
the science,
Because even now we can tell you
learning.
that we can tell you that, you know, elementary like particles and atoms and up quarks and down quarks and protons and neutrons, we could tell you what are the very building blocks of matter in the world around us. But how are they creating and manifesting as everything we see, as the air around us, as ourselves, as light? And obviously there's all these things, string theory, we already spoke about quantum physics, but like we don't even, it's crazy. So much so that Einstein used to refer to one of the qualities of quantum mechanics as spooky action at a distance. It was like strange that these particles can interact with each other instantly from millions of miles away, millions of light years away, seemingly instantly faster than the speed of light. We still don't. There's so much we still don't understand and know.
Yeah,
And,
I think the only people that really know are like the reptilians, you know, the real ones who really
the
control the
lizard
world.
people.
Exactly, you know, like all the big high people in Hollywood and
Right.
in the White House.
David Icke was
Illuminati.
David Icke is the British guy. He used to be an actor, I think, who like snapped one day, and then he's the founder of that theory of like that we're being run by a bunch of lizard people who can transform
he was
their
right.
camouflage as
he
humans.
was right. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Also, out of everything, first of all, why would they have to be any sort of mutant of any kind?
Or lizard.
Like, can't they be like a superhero or like something like that, like an evil hero or whatever, like a villain? Like, why would they have to be a reptile? And like, and then they compare that with like certain actions that they do, and that makes them a reptilian person. And like, no one is ever like, you know, it's
Right.
like people who like deny, you know, the world is like circular.
It probably stems from the biblical story of Adam and Eve and the serpent having arms and legs and being similar to a lizard in that regard, and him being like the sort of
and that turned them into famous Hollywood people.
No, but maybe, you know, that I think in his convoluted mind, that evil force somehow it was from a different planet or whatever he says that.
You know, I just heard recently that with Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve, it was not an apple.
According to Jewish writings, it was not an apple. I believe that the apple is of Christian belief. Yeah.
I feel like that's what I always learned. So what the hell were they eating? A freaking,
So I think it's there's a disagreement
pomegranate?
in the Talmud, but the three options given, I believe, were
They had options.
no, the three. It was three. There's a disagreement as to what it was based on the text. And
Oh, I
certain
thought it
writings.
was a tree with like
no.
multiple options.
But I think
like,
I think it was, again, I could be wrong. I have to look this up. I think it was three, and I think it was either grapes, wheat, like wheat stalks, or figs. I'm almost positive. I might have made that up.
No, it must have been the grapes. It must have been the grapes because why would you sacrifice your life? And I think all women would be pissed if they have to go through the pain of childbirth because Chava ate some wheat stalks. And dates, it's like, if they're like the ones like we have in Israel, they're really good. But other than that, like I feel like the grape is the only thing. Also, maybe because they were picking the grapes because they wanted to make it into wine and get crunk. It's the only logical explanation I can think of, obviously.
Yeah, so here, according to, the only ones mentioned in Jewish texts, are grapes, figs, or wheat. They also mention, this is on the Wikipedia page,
You sure it was
forbidden
weed?
fruit.
Because like then I would understand. It's wheat.
Wheat,
Like Wheaties, the cereal.
It's interesting because it says here about the apple that in Western Europe, the fruit was often depicted as an apple. This was possibly because of a misunderstanding of or a pun on two unrelated words in malum, a native Latin noun which means evil, and another Latin noun which means apple.
So everything about this apple thing is a lie for sure.
Yeah, the apple has no Jewish.
Devastated.
It's not a lie. It has no
Devastated.
Jewish sources.
So they literally picked a tree of either a grape, a fig, or wheat. That's what literally caused all this
Then
shit.
you have other beliefs.
And we kill ourselves for our sins. It's like, I'm sure I'd be like, really, Chava, you're calling me out right now? Because I'm pretty sure you screwed up this whole world over some weed, okay?
Right. Over some weed. Right, yeah, it definitely changes. But, all these stories are so fascinating. And it never really bothered me, the whole the dichotomy between, I guess, science and Torah. And there's people that try to write books and come on. It never bothered me. And, I was listening to a quantum physicist that I like a lot, Brian Greene, a fellow Jew.
You're just dropping names right.
I'm talking about people I listen to. I'm not giving people shout outs.
No, you're trying to make yourself sound so educated. It's like, shit, I have to start maybe I'll go on ChatGPT and be like, give me a list.
When I drive, I listen to a lot of podcasts. Anyways,
so do I. They're all
mentioned like a turning point for him and his perspective. Not that his personal beliefs on God or religion have changed. He's not a religious person. I don't think he necessarily believes in a God and a traditional God. But it changed when he met someone, a Nobel Prize laureate, I think, or Nobel Prize winner, who not a laureate, Nobel Prize winner, who was a religious person.
A laureate, though.
Laureate, yeah. Is that the right term? Okay.
I think a laureate is when you've gotten one in the past.
Right. So he had won one, but he was still he was a religious person. He was Christian, but he never took any of his beliefs into his work. Meaning, when he was working on things, he was working on things in science. He wasn't bringing his his perspectives into his formulas or his equations. But he found it. I guess he said it was a turning point for him to recognize that you can, you don't have to allow something to destroy this other aspect of your life, especially like you know something, you feel something, it's had an effect on you, and you're strong enough in your beliefs to not waver in the face of a little bit of adversity. It's not going to bother you. That's all that it is. Mm-hmm. And it never really bothered me. And you can be laughed at or called a joke, and human beings in nature, and he mentioned in that same discussion that even was it Richard Hawking, this good famous atheist who's self-proclaimed anti-religious, I think. He even said, he mentioned this on a podcast he was on. He said he told him that he prefers to not sleep in a house that has a reputation of being haunted, even though he's such a devout atheist. And Brian said himself, he'll knock on wood 3 times, sometimes as a thing of good luck. He's like, we've developed these things over time, and they help us psychologically, even if whether or not that they're there. But
totally,
that kind of dichotomy never
purpose
really,
or understanding.
Yeah, you're right. A Nobel laureate. A laureate's a person who is honored with an award for outstanding creative or intellectual achievement.
I know that because I'm a laureate of so many prizes and awards. I just can't even keep up.
Laureate of life. Laureate of
Sheldon Laureate Bruck, as opposed to Sheldon Xanax Bruck.
Right, Sheldon Xanax Bruck.
I have so many middle names, and the most ridiculous one is my real one.
Who is that supposed to be on your shirt that I've been staring at? Is that a person?
Karl Lagerfeld.
That's him.
It's not him because he's dead.
Okay, that's what I didn't know.
Maybe in ashes, but this is him, yeah.
Oh, he only died in 2019. Yeah, that is him. It looks like him.
You see, and I'm not even a big fashion person, but I know what the hell he is and stuff. How do you not know? It's iconic.
I don't know. I haven't been so...
For years, he ran Chanel and everything, and then did his own line. He's an icon. And I'm not even a big fashion person. Mm-hmm. That's where this is from. What do you think? Because it's fucking Chinatown? It's Karl Lagerfeld.
Look at
you.
And
it's Karl Lagerfeld.
You're just... Yeah, no, I'm not
You're just...
No. You got the drip, as they say.
Dripping it out. Why do you think I own this crib?
Right? Exactly. Yeah, I can't keep up with any of the lingo. Drip. When I was teaching kids, we'd be throwing out words. I had no idea what they were talking about.
Did you ever hear of I ship them? When a couple that you think is really cute and you like their relationship, it's, oh my God, I ship them.
No, that's not a thing, dude. That's not a thing.
Look it up. Akiva, this is the world we are living in. Done.
I ship them. It means that someone supports a romantic relationship between two people. Katie, they're so cute. Jenna, I ship them. What?
Told you. Hold on, I forgot to tell you also. A kid died today from the Benadryl challenge. The Benadryl challenge.
Right.
I'm not laughing because he died. I'm laughing because every week there's another fucked up challenge. The Kia challenge, the Tide Pod challenge, the Benadryl challenge. The kid died because the challenge is
What did he do? He overdosed?
15 Benadryls.
I knew a kid, and one of my friends in high school used to snort Benadryl. Not sure it did anything, but I think, was it for his allergies? I don't know. Probably not, but it gave him something.
Maybe he had like really bad allergies. He needed to absorb real fast.
It's terrifying. I don't even know this was a thing. I shipped them. You know what? It reminds me of a comedian I heard once who said, like, with the way language is changing, like in the 20, 30 years, you're going to try to go over to some type of conversation, and it's going to sound like Jabba the Hutt.
When bootylicious was added to the dictionary, I remember it was like such a big deal. People were like talking about it, like, what? Like, why would it be added?
I remember when bling
like,
got added to the dictionary. Bling.
And now Merriam-Webster's snatching up all this shit.
I know.
Like,
who is Miriam, and why does she get to choose all the words?
Literally. You know why? Her last name is Webster. She's probably Jewish. They're taking over, guys.
Someone actually sent me a video of a guy in New York City yelling about how Jews control and run everything, a lot of the Kanye stuff.
Yeah, you sent it to me.
And then a random guy comes out of nowhere. He's like, "Sir, can you please leave?"
Out of here.
Like, no, he's like, I'm actually Jewish. I control everything. Please get out of the
Right, exactly.
And the guy's like, "No, you can't move me." And he literally started backing away. It was great. Oh my goodness.
It's like, do we or do we not? And also, if we are owning the world, like, where the hell is my cut? Because I'm clearly getting gypped. Because, like, I am not making that money.
I'm trying to see when the word bling was put in the dictionary.
Maybe after the bling ring, who were robbing all the people.
2006, yep. I remember it being put in. That makes sense. 2006.
I was 14, FML.
Why is that?
No wonder Britney shaved her head in 2007. Bling was added to the dictionary.
I don't even remember that. You were 15 years old. I was 11. Yeah, unfortunately, in the mind of an 11-year-old boy, Britney Spears shaving her head is not so high up there on the list of interests.
Akiva, the world was obsessed. You were too young. It was everywhere. And nowadays, people can shave their head right and left, and like people don't give like a blink.
I actually saw someone. I saw a kid with an interesting hairstyle.
You're Chris Rock, and then you get someone across the face for making a joke about a girl being bald. No one did that for Britney.
I heard apparently from sources, whatever that means. I don't know if it's true or not. That Will was very upset from the whole thing. Did we speak about this last time?
Hold on, no, but yeah, I don't know if we spoke about it, but were you the one that sent me the video of sources like that whole compilation of sources tell us? Sources tell us.
Who are the sources?
Oh my God! Hold on, I have to show you. I mean, it's not copyright or anything because we're in like whatever, but
because we're in like whatever. Your Honor, this doesn't constitute copyright infringement because we're like whatever.
Some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias.
Yeah, I've seen this. Wild. Absolutely wild.
I was talking about that, like literally, like that's.
Are all those smaller news stations owned by one network, and they're the ones who are pushing it?
And they all have the same legal jargon. Because they can't state sources, they have to be very vague without being too specific. But they also want to sound like they're backing up a story with credit.
That's funny. That's what happened with Matt. What's his last name? Taibbi, the guy that Elon Musk looked at Twitter files to. Whatever. We need to speak to.
I thought you were about to talk about Matt Lauer, and I'm like, bitch, that is not what happened to Matt Lauer.
No, when he had to speak before him and another guy to speak before like members of Congress, and one of the ladies kept trying to get like his source out of him, and he's like, I'm not going to tell you who my source is. I'm not going to answer the question.
Really? What about the whole TikTok thing? And I always crack like a 13-year-old boy.
TikTok.
When the woman's like, does it connect to your Wi-Fi when they're asking the most like ridiculous questions? I think Meat Canyon on YouTube did a hysterical parody of it because like there are very genuine concerns about TikTok, but like they literally put the most boomer people to really like crack down on this guy that they made asses of themselves. It's like people who literally still use VHS tapes and don't know how to trick.
He answered every question. He was trained. That guy was trained to like the T with every question they could have possibly asked.
And they should also be prepared in all their questions.
Yeah, I don't really. I don't know. I don't know who's getting. What's crazy to think when I think about
You heard about
companies
the secret police in New York. They're accusing China of having a secret underground police in New York. They just cracked a bunch of people and arrested 2 main ones.
What does that mean? A secret police?
Secret police in New York, and apparently they were.
I just asked you what that means, and you literally just repeated the words.
Google it, bitch, because that's all I saw right before we started.
Are they acting in coordination with the NYPD? What does that mean? They're secret police?
No, secret Chinese police, New York City.
Here, secret Chinese police station in New York leads to arrest.
Oh, please tell me what information that provided more than I just.
2 men were arrested. They helped establish a police station in New York on behalf of the Chinese government. About 3 dozen officers. I'm assuming it sounds like it was. Let's see if I can see where it is.
Espionage, like Russia's holding a journalist.
It sounds like they're literally just trying to enforce. As I choke, enforce like their own.
They're getting to you.
They're trying to. They're trying to enforce their own policing in like New York and like all around the world. This is a blatant violation of our national sovereignty, Michael Driscoll, the head of New York's FBI field office, said. It is a blatant violation of our sovereignty.
Do you think they have like a little booklet of phrases to say to the media? Because they always use like these like it's like literally like see page 36, column C.
Exactly. Oh, 100%. I mean, all these they're always briefed by their teams and before they go out, and
that's the thing, and that's why it's always so funny with Trump, because you're literally the fucking president. You were the fucking president, and you literally have the team and writers and everything, and you just can't stick to the goddamn script. Like the people behind the scenes, who's ever left,
they must be going crazy.
Like literally, they're like, just stick to don't deviate. Just
you can't
read from the teleprompter.
The best, my favorite was the video someone made narrating the Secret Service over Joe Biden walking back into the White House, and he's like, "Eagle's going to be making a right turn here." Lost. He's like, "Please point." There's no way he can miss it if you point, and he points to the right. And Joe just walks right past him. Oh,
I love that.
He goes, "Quick, someone get a woman with nice smelling hair or a girl."
See, but that's the difference also. Like the Joe Biden ones, it's like they're really funny and you can laugh at them, but the Trump ones, it was more scary and you were kind of petrified for where the country's going.
Yeah, I actually was surprised. I saw it when I was a couple of weeks ago or whatever. I was watching the UFC fight a couple of weeks ago.
Do you
and
want to give a shout out to any fighters?
Wait, who was the fight? It was Jorge Masvidal and Gilbert Burns were the co-main event, and Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira were the main event.
Oh,
I watched it with
Shira. Yeah, whatever. I don't know.
Pereira.
I have a coworker whose last name's Pereira.
He was defeated. He had beaten Israel 4 times.
The guy's name is Israel.
Yeah, Israel Adesanya.
Is that his legit name? They don't have like stage names?
No, they call him Izzy, but his name's Israel Adesanya. He's from, I think he's Nigerian, and then when he was younger, he moved to New Zealand, and he was raised there for his teenage years.
Oh, New Zealand! I really want to go there.
Yeah, he's a really cool accent.
But
at a certain point, the camera pans, and I see Trump sitting next to Dana White, who the owner of the UFC, who's a big Trump supporter.
I know.
It was like I saw a picture, and it said, "This is the craziest blunt rotation I've ever seen." It was Dana White, Donald Trump, Kid Rock, and Mike Tyson, like the dream team.
Mike Tyson,
right? I guess this was
an obsession with pigeons, which I didn't know.
Right, because Kid Rock, he catapulted into the news when he was shooting a bunch of beer cans, bunch of Bud Light cans.
Bud Light, because of the transgender spokesperson, which it's so fucked up, but it's weird on Bud Light's part in terms of like knowing their market and demographic. Not at all that has anything to do with the transgender thing. It's like if you were going for people who were very into cars, you want to give it an influencer who's a car influencer kind of thing. It's like this girl on Instagram or whoever. It's not like she is a beer connoisseur. Like beer's always on her channel. Right. Like that it kind of tied in with the brand. It's like doing a makeup collab with a guy who does oil changes. Like it's like. So it's weird in that sense. I think it's more of them trying to appeal to a larger market and be like, look, you guys, we're so woke, even though they had so many ads for years that were all about, you're a real man and only real men drink Bud Light.
Right, so that's
and, like,
what she said. The lady who's like the VP of marketing or whatever, she did one interview where she spoke about it. She said for a long time that was sort of their, the
MO.
Or like right, that was thought of as like the classic drinker of Bud Light, or Anheuser-Busch was
the
gonna
classic
do that.
drinker of Bud Light is someone's grandfather or uncle who gets way too drunk and way too loud very early on in the day, sitting in a recliner chair, staring at the screen.
You're probably right. I mean, I don't think I've ever even had Bud Light. It's not anyone's first choice of beer.
It is a backup. If there is nothing else available,
Then you go for a Bud Light.
I guess I'll take a Bud Light.
Right.
Or if you're at a Chicago Cubs game,
Right. That's all they have. That's all they have.
Miller,
No, I'm sure they probably now have more. So I haven't been to Wrigley Field or Cellular Field in God knows how long.
But you did throw out the first pitch once in Wrigley Field.
Yes, I did. Shout out to myself.
Dad asked me first, and I burst out laughing.
Yeah, I threw out. I got to throw. I don't know. We have the pictures somewhere because we printed them out in my.
We definitely do.
But I got to throw out the first pitch at a Cubs game. I think it was from a raffle Dad won for something. It was like a charity raffle. And I threw it from the mound. I lobbed it. I did get it down to the middle, but I lobbed it because it's when you're a little kid. I must have been.
I guarantee you did way better than Mariah Carey did when she threw it.
But we all got something that day. That's what's crazy. We walked in. They give you a ticket to win a raffle for a Hall of Fame signed picture of Nolan Ryan. You won that. Then we get.
Is that what his name is? Nolan Ryan?
Yeah, out of the talking about a stadium of like 40,000 people. I don't know how many people were there at the time.
It was a freak thing.
Could have been 10,000. I won. Crazy.
And then I'm like, got it. I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? Like,
and then we get onto the field to meet some of the players and for me to get ready to go up there before the game starts. And Willie Taveras, player on the Astros, walks over to us and gives my cousin Yechiel a bat. William B. Berger rolls over and hands him a bat, his practice bat. And I remember his face. We were just both staring like just complete shock. And then I got to throw out a pitch. I threw it to a pitcher. I don't even know the guy's name. It wasn't anyone I was interested in at the time. I've never really been a baseball guy, but it was cool. I had my name on the billboard. Wrigley Field welcomes Akiva Brucked, and I was like, "Thank you, everyone. Please be seated." But
Ryan, how old are you? You were like so young. It was pretty crazy. You went in front of a whole stadium.
It was a little bit nerve-wracking when you're in front of that many. And it wasn't even like remotely a packed stadium.
And it's not like your parents standing next to you as you're throwing out the first pitch. Like you're called on, and then you have to go on.
Right. That's something that always impressed me with professional athletes. But I guess as you level up, like you're getting bigger and bigger audiences. But you're in front of so many people cheering or booing. That's
the thing. Also at basketball games, even when they're trying to just do like a free throw shot, if there's a foul or something, like you have people who are like boo,
and there's just music playing.
Really, so loud and smackers and stuff.
And those smackers doing the foul lines. Everyone's like trying to clack those as fast as you can.
Right? You don't know
feel like
they
get trained. They get so used to it, they can just like clear it out. I feel like
probably by bursting their own eardrums or something.
I saw a crazy video yesterday of Stephen Curry, the greatest shooter of all time. He was just like,
is he?
Before the game started, he was just dribbling between his legs, like dribbling it between his legs across, like underneath his hoop. And when he dribbled it under his legs one time, the ball like
underneath his hoop. What is his hoop?
He was walking under their hoop on their side of the court.
Oh, their hoop. He's under his hoop. I'm like,
he was walking across the court from corner to corner, dribbling under his legs, and he missed it at one point, and the ball rolled away. And a normal person, they probably just messed up the dribble. But Steph Curry's first thought is, I didn't mess up. The ball messed up. So what does he do? He steps back, goes back to where he just stood, feels the floor, and he realizes something's messed up with the floor. And he starts showing the guy. He drops the ball on the floor, and it bounces to a certain height. And then he drops it on that same spot, and it goes like a good 3 inches lower. And he keeps dropping it there. It's like something was wrong with the floor. So to be at such an advanced level of athleticism and at your sport that you could that your first thought is, I didn't mess up, the floor is broken, is crazy to me.
What's even crazier is the fact that if that's true, then that's even crazier.
Right.
It's one thing to be like, it's not me, it's the floor.
Right, but he was right.
And then people would be like, the floor, really, the floor.
Right.
And then it's like, oh shit, it really is the floor.
Right.
Well, oh
my goodness, it's already. Yeah, we're already at the end. I didn't even realize the time.
Already at the end.
Perfect time.
You said that ticking time clock going down like the Academy Awards.
All right, or clicking up, but. Without revealing yet, we God willing, are having a guest on soon, a family member, someone with a very cool, inspiring story. I'm not sure if it'll be next week or the week after, but stay tuned. Like, subscribe, follow us.
If you're on YouTube,
it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. What did you say?
It is. I said if you're on YouTube, I was going to say something. You already said like and subscribe, so I was like, right.
Yeah, if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe, and if you're on the TubeU, subscribe and like. And we'll catch
if you're on
everyone.
OnlyFans.
Oh my God. And we'll catch everyone on the flippity flap.
Bye.
Next week, 2 weeks, next week, and we'll catch you then. Take care, everyone.
Cheers. Bye.